Yes, my name is Russel Merryman, Russellmerryman. I am the Editor-in-Chief for Web and New Media at Al Jazeera English.
Okay, and maybe you can just quickly highlight some of the tenets of what types of things you're trying to do, where your vision is going with this department.
What we're trying to do with Al Jazeera is we've got a new channel that launched Al Jazeera launched in November 2006. We launched a brand new global news channel that tried to bring news from an international perspective to change the way in which people view the news. Until Al Jazeera International came along, we really were looking at domestic organisations like the BBC and CNN, which had domestic agendas as well as trying to cover the international news. From Al Jazeera's perspective, the new English channel aimed to challenge that and to bring news to people from a purely global perspective. So our agenda is looking at international news solely. In terms of what we're trying to do with the new media side of the operation, we're trying to bring as much of that content to as many people as possible using the tools of the internet and mobile phones to try and ensure that however people view Al Jazeera English, they get a single message, they get access to all of our content, and they're able to do so in whichever way suits them. And that's the thing, is to answer the audience's demands, to be able to access this content whenever and however they want.
And I know Al Jazeera is, for example, on YouTube and on a lot of different places. Is that really, can you say a little bit about trying to make that decision and just be there instead of be only on your own site?
Yes, I mean the YouTube experiment has been a very interesting one for us because we did not have, like many other media organisations, an established set of infrastructure for dealing with audio and video online. We could start with a blank page, and the options were really that we could spend millions of dollars trying to fund our own system and build our own technology and deliver through our own systems to the public via our own website, or we could look at what people were using and try and take advantage of already existing technologies. And that's when we looked at YouTube. We saw the audience figures for YouTube. We saw that people could use it very easily, and that the barrier to entry on that was very low, that it was very, very cost effective for us. So we looked at the possibility of doing that. We talked to YouTube, and they were very receptive to us doing that. So we started with a small trial in April of 2007, and really went to town with it. We started just by uploading a few of our programs. The original idea was to have our programs on there in full for only 30 days so that people could catch up. And it took off. People were looking at our content when we put our programs up initially. Then we started putting news packages as well, and people were coming back to us and giving us their feedback, and the response to that was phenomenal. So instead of taking the content off again after 30 days, we've just left it there. And we spoke to YouTube, and they said, no, you just keep going. If there's a problem, we'll tell you, but there's no problem with capacity at the moment. Just keep going. So that's what we've done, basically. We've taken them at their word, and we now have almost 3,000 videos up there. We have our entire back catalogue of programs where we've got the rights for those programs. We've put everything up there. We're putting probably 10 or 15 videos a day sometimes up there, and the audience has just taken that to heart, really, very, very quickly. At the last count, in 10 months, we'd had 16.5 million videos viewed, which is the largest. It makes us the most viewed news channel on YouTube of any kind anywhere in the world. And the response has been phenomenal, and it's allowed us to do other things like work with interactivity. And now what we do is we're experimenting with allowing viewers to get involved with our programs so that we can put a question of the week on YouTube, and then say, right, what do you think about this question? People can leave their video responses and their text responses on our YouTube pages, and we can then use those in a program later in the week. So we've been able to do that. The fact that YouTube is embeddable means that we can now put those videos in our own pages as well. So it's given us a huge amount of flexibility to deal with something without having to go to all the trouble of building the technology, of managing it ourselves, which would have required a significant investment had we gone down that road.
And then having spent 17 years, you mentioned, at BBC, and now working for Al Jazeera, two really huge, I think well-respected broadcasting channels, are there any things that you see one doing that the other is not doing, or that must just give you a really interesting overview in the industry, and especially the multimedia side of things?
Yes, I think that the BBC probably suffer from the problem that we don't, in that we're still relatively new, and therefore we've been able to take into account some of the developments in the new media realm that the BBC have actually had to work through and live through. So some of the responses they've had, they built a video system so that they could deliver their own videos, and they have to manage that. That was something that we've kind of learnt from, and so we've been able to take that experience and say, do we want to replicate that, or do we want to do something different? And it's the same with our programs and with our news gathering. We've invested heavily in bureaus around the world. We've got people on the ground in many more areas than many of our competitors, and the result is a much more diverse range of stories that we're presenting to the public. We've also invested heavily in factual documentary making, in current affairs programming, so that we have some very strong strands that are churning out some excellent, never reported stories, not just in news but in programs as well. So there's a huge range of new content that we're delivering that we think that we're able to get to places that other networks can't. And in that respect, the diversity, the range of content that we're able to deliver to people is huge compared to some of our competitors.